So long as like alchemy.
NBA Alchemy, November 21st, Wednesday, Thanksgiving Eve. I want to thank everybody for the birthday shouts. A lot of love, a lot of support, a lot of new patron members, man. I appreciate the support. You will not be disappointed. You can go back and see the archive goes back all the way entire season. But, you know, I'm excited for you to join me for the rest of this season, and it's going to be a long one. It's going to be fun. So this will probably be a little quicker one. Those of you that have followed my Dad NBA Life podcast, and, you know, this is kind of developed, alchemized into what this show is. I've spoken on Jon Wall several times, right? And initially I was a big fan of his, and now, you know, at this point, it's just
Damn, homie. In high school, you was the man, homie.
right. You know, I love to use the soundboard, but apparently, I think it was Monday, our boy Jon Wall attempted to spree-well little Scotty Brooks in our nation's capital. No, I don't think he got physical. But, you know, he was fined for, what was the terminology, verbally abusing Scotty Brooks in a practice where everybody went off on each other, and it's time. We all saw this coming. If you saw a couple episodes ago, my broken window theory with the Wizards, and it's time to blow it up, and it looks like they're ready to do so. I want to focus a little bit on Jon Wall, though, because what it sounds like is he is at the heart of this. He is the root of the problem, and guys just don't like playing with him, and coaches just don't like coaching him. Now, Jon Wall, I know you're going to think this is crazy, but was every bit as talented as LeBron James. Now, he's not 6'9", 250 pounds. But if you remember him coming into Kentucky, he was a phenom. He had track speed up and down the court, ambidextrous in both hands, and the vision of Jason Kidd. I mean, he was the complete package. Yes, the jump shot had to come along just like LeBron's, right? But the difference between these two guys is character and work ethic. He could be right here, right now. We could be talking about Jon Wall alongside LeBron James. Who this KD LeBron argument, it really could have been Jon Wall. But let's take a look at character. I just had talked about this in my last video. Environment is going to mold a lot of that character, right? And for whatever reason, Jon, I don't necessarily want to knock his character as opposed to big up LeBron's character. And I've thrown plenty of shade and hate at LeBron over the years, but big picture as a man, as a human being, LeBron's character, you can't really question it, right? And then we go into work ethic. And that, to me, is the most special thing about LeBron James. We've talked about this before. When you're a phenom, when you have all these God's gifts, work ethic usually doesn't come hand in hand with that, because why? You go to practice, you go to games, you're busting people's ass. It's so easy. Why do you got to put in work? Why you got to put in work? You're already better than everybody, right? But at some point, that gap and that separation, it starts to close as you make it to the pros. And LeBron never let that gap close, because in the practice, behind closed doors, what he does behind the scenes, he treated himself as a normal player, not a phenom, not somebody with all of these God's gifts. And that's why LeBron has lived up to the hype, where Jon Wall clearly hasn't done that. I've talked about him being out of shape. We've talked about just him not meshing with teammates, right? And it really starts, let's take it back to the AAU programs and youth basketball. This is one of the problems that we're seeing with the generation of players today. Wall was probably one of the first, right? So they put the ball in his hands at 7 or 8 years old, right? And he was so good, so dominant, that every coach that he had was just happy for him to be on their team. You don't want to upset Wall. You hope he shows up at the games, right? You hope he signs up for your club team next year. So he was never really coached. He was really running shit. And even all the way up into Kentucky. You think Calipari was telling Wall what to do? I don't think so. I think that, that team was so stacked. Boogie Cousins, you had Bledsoe behind them. They had like 6, 7 NBA players on that team. But the problem is that through his youth and through his basketball development, he was so good and everything was handed to him, he couldn't take criticism. He doesn't know how to be coached. And that's what we're seeing up to this point, along with the work ethic. He was so gifted. Why put in the work? He was already there. He had already got it. He had got the shoe deal right out of Kentucky. And so now here we are today where, a guy by all accounts that everybody loves in Scotty Brooks Can't mess with him, right? Teammates are tired of it. And he's so ball dominant as well. He doesn't know how to do anything else but dominate the ball because he's been handed it. And that's where he and LeBron are similar, right? But LeBron, the behind the scenes stuff and those things that we're talking about that have kept him and made him so special, it works. So, is Jon Wall a lost cause? Probably. I honestly feel like that. Now, he's so good, he's not going to fizzle out of the league, but you look at the Supermax deal and you say, where does he go? Who's going to want this dude? And I've heard people say Phoenix, right? But you have to remember, James Jones is now the GM there, and he's fresh out of the league. He understands these things better than maybe some of these older, further removed general managers. So what you're going to see happen here is this summer, it's going to be one of these free agents, one of these teams that misses out on the free agents that are ahead of Jon. Well, Jon Wall's not a free agent, but you look at Clay, Kawhi, KD, all these guys. One of these teams is going to swing and miss, right? And then to appease their fans, they're going to take a risk on Jon Wall. And it is what it is. It's you got to take risks. So I'm not going to, I probably won't diss him depending on what the deal, because it's probably going to be more of a salary dump. I don't think they'll probably have to give up much for Jon Wall. Now, does he turn things around this season and the Wizards make a strong push? Yeah. I don't know. That almost might be worse. If you're a Wizards fan, I think you need it to fully crumble and explode so you can tear it down and get rid of them. If now they run off a 10-game winning streak and they're back in the hunt, you're just going to be back in the same place that you've been, and it's going to be a circle, right? But is Wall's career salvageable? And the only way I see it being saved is he needs a coach with credentials and clout and command of their roster. And there's only a few that have that, and it's like Pop, Carlisle, right? Perhaps down in Miami with Spo. There's only a few organizations, I think, that could steer Jon Wall in the right direction. But at the same time, it's still going to be on him. The work ethic, the behind-the-scenes things, a light bulb is going to have to go off for him. And at this point, I don't think it can. And then you look at those organizations. Is he a San Antonio-type player? No. Dallas, Mark Cuban's a risky dude. But you look, they already have a backcourt for the next 10 years. So wherever he may end up, I feel bad for the coach. He's making all this money. He has to play, right? And it's just going to get ugly. But, I think I'm looking too far into the future. Let's talk about some of these other players and roster moves they could make. You move on to Otto Porter, and you look at his skill set, and you go, man, he fits today's NBA. That's why he got the big deal. But if you pay attention to the Wizards, he's low-key soft, right? He doesn't show up all the time. He kind of disappears. And then apparently behind the scenes, he's very whiny. You know what I'm saying? And they've been taking stabs at it here and there through the media without calling out his name. But, I think that teams are going to be very intrigued with his attributes and his skill set. And they're going to believe that, it's the situation. It's not Otto. And so I think everybody's calling for Otto Porter. And I don't know where he winds up or what the cost is, but I expect him to be traded first. Now, obviously, the prized possession is Bradley Beal. Laker fans, what y'all gonna do? What y'all gonna do? Now, everybody wants Bradley Beal, of course. He's one of those guys, much like Klay Thompson. He likes to bounce off the bounce a little more, but he's a guy that fits on any team. Any team would love to have Bradley Beal. He's been high character. He's handled this the best I think you could ask, right? All the situation. And so Laker fans, are you willing? Are you willing to give up Ingram and Hart? It'll be KCP too, but I'm not counting that as like a real give up. He's on a 1-year deal. But I think that's what it'll cost. It'll cost you KCP, Ingram, and Hart. There may be some supplemental pieces to fix the salaries and match. There may be some players on the other sides, but that's what it's going to be. If I'm the Lakers, I don't give up Ingram and Kuzma. I don't. Now, you could take out Hart, put Kuzma in, keep Hart. I know people like Hart, but, I think that Kuzma is an ideal 6-man. I think that, you bring him in and he just gets buckets. And with today's NBA as a stretch big, I know Hart has more two-way potential, but I would try to hang on to Kuzma. Laker fans, I ask you, what do you want to do? Are you willing to do that? I know a lot of you have an attachment to Brandon Ingram because he's homegrown and you drafted him. You've kind of watched him develop. I think there is a slim chance that Brandon Ingram ever develops beyond what Bradley Beal is now. They're different players. I understand that. But I'm just saying, now, he could be, Bradley Beal, that's no shame. There's no shame in saying that. Bradley Beal is an all-star, right? I'm just saying there's a slim chance Ingram becomes more than what Bradley Beal is now, right? So I think you make the trade. The problem is you're going to be competing with a lot of other teams. You see what's happening in Boston. If those, here I go again, pay attention to what I say. But you remember what I said in the beginning of the season about Boston and about how this is going to be Brad Stevens' real test as a coach. Sure enough, that's what's happening. So don't be surprised if they're in on this, right? They need to mix some things up because they're so atrocious offensively. So the Lakers are not going to be bidding against themselves when it comes to Bradley Beal. There's going to be competition, and Washington should be able to leverage some bids on Bradley Beal, right? I'm going to defend Kevin Durant here a little bit. No one gets nastier shit yelled at them than Kevin Durant in the NBA. And I don't know this for a fact. I just know this. And you know this as well, right? That it's just, we know this. We know this. Out of Harden, Westbrook, LeBron, any of these guys that have a lot of, kind of hate around the league, KD has the most. And I guarantee you he's getting the wildest shit yelled at him. And so I don't blame him. I don't blame him. It's fine. 25, that's nothing to him, right? But you have to understand that I think he gets the worst heckling in the league, so it is what it is. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about is the Sacramento Kings. Sacktown, stand up. Saw them beat the Thunder the other night, and they're impressive, man. They have, if you want to talk big picture, they have speed and spacing. You got Bielitsa out there looking like a Nickelodeon figurine with his skinny ass ankles, but he's been a real key for them, stretching the floor, and he's just got a real Euro swag to him. That was a big acquisition. And those of you, again, back to my Patreon, if you go look at my awards, my pick for the awards this season, go back and see what I said about Sacramento, what I said about De'Aaron Fox, what I said about Buddy Hield. I saw this coming. Now, are they a playoff team? I don't know about all that. They're young, and they're going to probably have some ups and downs. Can they stay healthy? But they're really fun to watch, man. They're really fun to watch. And I guess the unaccounted for thing was, again, I don't want to say, like, I told you. I think a lot of people expected De'Aaron to take a step. Buddy Hield, maybe not so much, right? But everybody expected to see year 2 from De'Aaron, and he's taken that. To his credit, the jumper looks a lot better, man. The lefty looks a lot better. He's very similar skill set to Jon Wall, but wasn't such a freak. He has the work ethic. What has been unaccounted for this Kings team is Iman Shumpert. Shump God. And, it's just weird at this point in someone's career for him to have this kind of breakout, right? And you take a look at it, and we have to consider the LeBron effect. There's a LeBron effect that's going on here. Because if you remember Iman as a young player in New York, he never lacked confidence, man. He was out there moving around like he was Kobe. And then those were bad Knicks teams, and he was able to do so, right? And it was hit or miss. So he never lacked confidence. Right? And you see his athleticism and attributes. He had that. What was missing was how to be a pro, how to work, how to prepare for games, how to take care of your body after games. I know he's had an injury history as well. That's something to take into account. But I think him spending that time in Cleveland on a championship caliber team and watching LeBron work and watching Kyrie and these guys, I think it showed him how to get better and how to be a pro, if you will. And so I think that you have to take that into account, man. So that's just an unaccounted for really nice player. Now, he's got to stay healthy. It's not a coincidence. It's in his playing style that he gets chipped up because he's so athletic and he's fearless. But you got to like what you see from him. It doesn't hurt that he's got Tiana charging his battery too, man, his muse. So I like the Kings, man. Shout out to the Kings. What else? Happy Thanksgiving. Very grateful to be able to bring you these videos. Very grateful for the patron support and being able to do what I love to do. Hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.
I've been winning so long, it's like alchemy.